The recording is running. All right, so this will be a walkthrough of CP Simul. We are releasing this to ConocoPhillips. Currently, this is running on Chevron, and the guys seem to like it so far. We've made some improvements since the Chevron deployment. So um, first things first, we will start with your setup for Conoco. Whenever we deploy this to the field, you are going to receive this MCS like you normally do with nothing configured. So my suggestion right now is once you get out there to pad, you're going to configure everything from start to finish like you normally would. Just pretend CP Simul is not even a thing. So in this case, I'm going to set these up to how it would normally be once you receive your MCF. And so our expectation at this point is you configure everything, you go set your assignments on your valves, you get your sensors all calibrated, transducers are all hooked up, ISO valves are all set up. And at this time, before you start CP Simul, the easiest thing is to have all of your valves that you're going to use in service and set. That includes the ISOs. And the reason why I say that is because when you start running operations with CP Simul, I'll show you how this is going to work. But once you turn on CP Simul and you start operations with it, the system understands that bank A, bank B, bank C, if you have frac active on those banks, it will limit your ability to take valves out of service. It will limit your ability to take certain settings out of service. So my suggestion is set everything up before we start turning stuff on and running the show. So assuming all your valves have been set up, everything's configured, we're ready to roll. Then we can start setting up CP Simul, which doesn't really require a whole lot of setup, which is good. So we'll dive into that. Once you're ready to do CP Simul, you're going to go to your systems box. We're going to select field nodes. And the only thing I'm going to do here is just confirm that sequencer is on for all my wells. So I'll select auto, that'll flip sequencer on for all 7 wells. And this sequence mode, this is something that exists in the sequencer settings. Typically, you would have accessed it on the well pages, and you would have had to set it up for every single well. In this case, CP Simul works best whenever the sequence mode is set to proceed on interlock. It's not a requirement, but it makes the sequence smoother. However, this is a customer expectation. So if Conoco or your company reps prefer to err on the side of caution, in the event that the well sequencer pauses due to an interlock, if you have this set to pause, all it will do is once the interlock is cleared, like you need to equalize your frac pressure to tree pressure, as soon as that's over, the system will simply just stay in paused and you'll have to resume it yourself. If you have it set to proceed, then as soon as you've equalized to the well, it'll automatically move forward and not ask for you to resume. So, like I said, it's really customer specific. How you choose to do this is up to you. My suggestion, if you're able, set it to proceed and it will provide a seamless operation for you. Another thing to note, this is a global setting. So this applies to all 7 wells. If you have, just for instance, one well that requires a custom setup where, hey, like well 6, it's got a pause on interlock, you can still go to the well page specifically and you can change that setting there and it will hold it for that well only. So if I go to the red well and I say, oh, I need to configure this guy right here to be pause on interlock, then I can do that and it'll hold it. Just remember that if you make any changes in the field nodes, like if I toggle this, it's going to overwrite what I just did and it'll apply it to all 7 wells once again. So keep that in mind. Okay, so that's all we do with field nodes, just those 2 items. And we hop over to field ops. This is where things get fun. So let me close out a few things because I want to show you guys what's going on. We open system settings, we go to field ops. We have multiple fracs, so we're going to select multiple. We have a total of 2 banks for ConocoPhillips, so we'll leave it at 2. And this frac group's disabled. This is what toggles CP Simul on and off. If I select it, it will toggle to enabled. You'll see a little blue box around it. And you'll also notice that my little frac banks button just enabled back here in the background. If I toggle it back off, this button goes away and I no longer have access to it. I'm going to toggle this back on. When I toggle this on, not only do I get access to the frac banks, it also affects what you're going to see on the well page. Because now that we are using CP Simul, you can no longer request frac on the well pages. You have to work through the CP. I'm calling it the frac banks landing page. You have to work through that page in order to do all your frac operations. So that's why you're going to see buttons over here that are covered up. It's asking you to utilize this. So now that I have it toggled on, I can hop to the frac banks. And this is the page that you guys are familiar with from before. I'm not sure if any of you, has everyone seen the original training of CP Simul? I guess a better question is, has anyone not seen it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, perfect, not a problem. So I'll just do a brief overview. This top section here, this is our real-time manifold. This displays the, it displays all of your wells, your ISO valves, your bank positions as they are right now. The red status is valve closed, green status is valve open. You've got all your ISO valves listed here, and these valves that lead up to your wells, these are your zipper sets. So we've got a zipper set. I've got the 704H well, and 704 is currently in standby. And we see the same for all 6 other wells. Also on this section, you're going to see tree pressure. On this right side, you're going to have your pump truck information. If I have raw data coming in, you're going to see, so I refer to this as pump trucks. They're also referred to as banks. In this case, we're calling this bank A. So I have bank A information. This is bank A pressure, and this is bank A flow rate. Over here on the far left, I have our CP settings box. If I select it, there's a lot of information thrown at you. We can go over this stuff on the bottom in a second. I'm more interested in the top and middle section. So as part of our setup, it's important to note that you can access your individual bank settings here. If you wanted to set up end of stage up front, you can toggle it on or off at this location. This and end of stage applies on a per bank level. So bank A has its own end of stage, B has its own, and C has its own. CP, which stands for continuous pump, cannot be enabled or disabled on this page. It's simply a visual of what's on this bank right now. So currently bank A has continuous pump disabled. Like I said, you can't interact with this. I'll show you how to turn CP on as we move forward. This little guy right here, the EOS remote disabled. For the foreseeable future, this will be disabled at all times. This is meant for if we are receiving cold bore end of stage signal. In the future, we have other end of stage plans. That's when this will become a valuable asset. And if you were to receive it remotely, you would toggle it on, it would enable it, and you would receive end of stage automatically. In this case, and like I said, for the foreseeable future, we'll leave it disabled as we do not need it. Your flow rate limit can be modified. Flow rate limit applies to all of your banks together, so they're not individually set. And this flow rate limit refers to continuous pump only. So basically what I'm saying is, if I'm going to continuously pump on bank A, my flow rate limit must be below 25 barrels a minute, period. If it's greater than 25 barrels a minute, it's not going to allow me to transition a continuous pump. Also worth noting, you have to have your flow rate sensor on and running and receiving raw data for that to work. So if you do not have a sensor or we're not receiving that data, this does not apply. This guy is your open well differential pressure. For the time being, this has caused some issues with how the field interacts with this type of interlock. So for the sake of simplicity, I had the developer set this to a number that will basically ensure that it's never going to be triggered. For now, we're just going to leave it as is. And in the near future, I will get that all fixed up. But it is this number for a reason, so go ahead and leave it. This bottom section here, this describes the features that we have available for ISO valves specifically. If I have an isolation valve that is out of service, you have a few options of how to handle it. These two right here, this indicator is ISO valve out of service. This indicator is open line. They mean the same thing and they will do the exact same thing. It's purely how you want to visualize it. All this means is this section right here, you can see where my green line's at. It's telling the computer that bank A has no isolation between bank A and 704H. Even if I set this, so if I select it, I can set this to out of service. It means the same thing. There is no isolation between bank A and 704H. If I had an ISO valve that was in service and I'm reading its valve position, then this guy, like ISO number 2, if I select it, I can't do anything with it. I can't assign it to any of these because it's an actual device in the field and it is reporting real-time position status. So the only time you can modify how an ISO valve operates is if you don't have an actual device and it is out of service. Your third way to visualize this is to select a block. All the block means is that there is an isolation between bank A and 704H. However, bank A cannot cross this block, period. That's all that means. I no longer require a dummy ISO and keeping it in the closed position. All of that's behind us now. At this point, your ISO valve's out of service. If I put a block here, bank A is not allowed to cross it. You'll notice that bank A still has all the well selections available to it. Unfortunately, this is just how the user interface works. It is completely safe the way this is set up. It's a little confusing, I admit. However, if I select any of these wells and I try to frack it, the system is going to say no solution for this bank. And it's not overly clear, but you have to understand or take a look at your manifold and you see, okay, yeah, there's clearly a block between bank A and this 704H or 703 in this case. And sure, bank A is never going to be able to frack any of these guys. So that's why there's no solution for it. So those are the options for valves that are out of service. I prefer to put them as green lines because it just makes it clear to me. And an appropriate use for the block is typically if you have two frac manifolds and they're physically separated in real life. I don't have an ISO between them, but they're literally two lines that don't intersect each other. So that's when I would tell the system, yeah, there's a block between bank A and wherever bank B is set up. That's when you would use it. Another key feature that you would use it for is when I set up bank B. I'll do that in a second. If I set up bank B, let's say I put it right here, or even right here, this block has to be there in order for the system to calculate correctly. So you're basically just telling the system, hey, my manifold ends right here. And if I make this a green line and I put bank B right here, it'll do the same thing. It'll say there's no solution for this because you're about to bleed off the end of the manifold. So that's another reason why you need your block to basically close in your territory and make sure that it's pressurized. Okay, so those are the three features for ISO valves out of service. We explained the real-time manifold. I explained the CP settings. Now we can get into the pump truck devices, also known as bank devices. So pump truck, or I'm sorry, bank A, if I select it, I have a bunch of features that are associated with bank A specifically. You can get your real-time frac pressure reading. You can take your sensor in and out of service as needed. You'll notice that our flow rates are disabled. If I went to the global setting and turned on flow rates, I would get access to them here. For the sake of this pad on ConocoPhillips, I don't have any flow rate abilities, so we don't need to dive into that. If I needed to take this bank out of service, this is where I would do it. I would select this, I get this box. Down here, you can take things out of service. You must have bank A in service at all times. There's no way to have no banks in service. So I can bring bank B into service by doing the same method. And I can set its location right here using this box. And nothing has really changed with this functionality. So I'm going to put it to the left of ISO 6, and you'll see it moving around on this screen. You can move stuff and see where you need it. You'll also notice that as I move this bank around, it changes my well selections. The reason for that is because bank A, by default, cannot cross bank B, period. Like there's no safe way to do that, so it will not allow it. What you'll notice though is bank B has access to all the wells in bank A's territory. And the reason for that is because this system is not only a CP simultaneous frac, it is also an ISO sequencer. So when I make these well selections, the system is going to open these ISOs in order to get either bank A or bank B to the right well locations. With that in mind, because bank A is not in frac on any of these wells, it's basically telling me, yeah, bank B can go all the way up to 704. In reality, I can only go up to 703. But like I said, sometimes it'll give you some extra well selections. But because I have an open line here, it knows that there's no frac sequence for that. And it's going to tell you, no, you can't do that. But I could bring it all the way up to 703. And because it is an ISO sequencer, the steps you're going to get here are close ISO number 2, close ISO number 6. It's going to set up its territory. It'll open ISO 5, 4, 3, and then it'll request 703 to open. Once this guy is fracking, I'm stuck with just 704H on my bank A. If I make a selection and I want to take a look at the sequence from start to finish, I can expand this guy by selecting the triangle. It'll tell me everything it's trying to do. So ISO number 2, action is closed. Its current state is closed. ISO number 6, closing. ISO 5 is going to be open, 4, open, 3, open, and then 703H, we're going to execute open. And that simply means 703 is going to get a phase change request to frac. Assuming all of that is approved, then the system will move forward. If you need to move this around, you can. It's kind of cool. And if you're done with it, select the triangle again, and it will go back to its normal state. Now, if I make a well selection here, you'll notice at the bottom updates. So what we have down here is a preview of your sequence. And we're basically saying, hey, based on your well selection, this is what the ISO sequencer needs to do in order to get you where you want to go. So I said, bank B, I want you to open 703H. My preview down here says, okay, bank B is located here. You need to get over here. I'm going to open ISOs 5, 4, and 3, and we're going to try to open 703. And, you know, it's just a quick indicator as to what the system's going to do. And if you don't like the sequence, or, you know, I know that you guys have pre-planned sequences, so more than likely you're going to make selections and it'll all be correct. In the event that you make the wrong selection, you can hit the clear button without executing. If I hit clear, it goes back to my well selections. It also frees up well selections here on the bank A because I don't have any pre-planned decisions over here. Are there any questions yet? Awesome. Cool. Okay, so some of the changes that we made from last time, you'll see that the well colors are accurate. They're now reflecting true well colors on the well pages. Your well names also show up in all the correct locations. So these are all custom names. And I actually set this up for ConocoPhillips's layout. So this is exactly what you're going to see out on site once you set it up. Let's make a few well selections. So because I'm not in frac on any of these wells, the only thing I can do is open wells. And you'll notice that bank A and bank B, they're not highlighted, they're boxed in a dotted line. That means that the bank is not active. And that's important, and I'll show you why that's important later, but keep that in mind. So your banks are not active right now. As soon as I make a selection, let's go to 703 for bank A. As soon as I make a selection, the dotted line goes away and a solid line takes its place. That means that your bank is now active and you're potentially fracking on it. Let's say I'm happy with that selection. I hit the start button. While this guy is running, I can simultaneously transition bank B if I want. So we're going to bring this guy to, let's say, 802. So we're going to let this thing do its thing. It's opening both my wells. Something to remember, the only way to get out of your CP Simul, your frac banks page is to select this field overview page button. There is no longer a menu button when you enter this. So keep that in mind. You hit this field view, you're right back to where you started. You can interact with your well pages if you need to, or your field overview. To go back, you select frac banks. So the system has fully opened up on 703, 802. I'm fracking on both those wells. Because I'm fracking, remember this is no longer dotted. It's now solid. So that means that your banks are active. And this is important because it affects, like I said before, your ability to turn off settings or to take certain valves out of service, things of that nature. So a prime example of this is if you want to make a change to your bank location. I can't make a change because it's active. I can't take it out of service because it's active. If I go to my systems settings over here, I cannot toggle this off because one of my frac banks is active. So in order to go back to regular operations, your banks must be in a non-active state. So I could choose to close both my wells and it'll go back to its regular state. Then I can start messing with the configuration if I needed to. There's no expectation that you should need to mess with it during operations, but there are situations when, bank A goes down, we have to do something. I'm sure there's a few examples of when we have to get in there and do stuff. Keep in mind that if the system doesn't let you do something, it's probably because your bank is active right now, and that's what we've done to lock it up. So let's take a look at a continuous pump transition. Right now, the system is set up for frac on bank A, bank B, My only option at this point is to close those wells, right? The system is not going to let me choose anything else. And if I want to close those wells, I could simply hit start and it would execute the process required to close them. If I prefer to CP at this point, I can toggle this CP button. Now I'm continuous pump enabled. At this point, maybe I want to bring over to the 701. As soon as I make a well selection over here, I'm now allowed to select operations for Bank B. You'll notice that because I selected CP, but I haven't selected any wells, I lose my ability to make decisions on Bank B. The reason for that is we preemptively want you to decide what you're going to do before we can give you safe decision-making options for Bank B. You're not required to choose one over the other. It doesn't have to be in this order. I could start with Bank B and I could say, oh, I want to continuous pump this one first. Get me over to 801. And then I can hop over to Bank A and execute if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and start this. We're going to CP this guy to this guy. So at this point, I've selected start. System is waiting on end of stage. This is a new page that we have for frac. It will be improved, but it is a good start. Let me, thought I had it open, but I'll just log into it instead. So if I'm the frac user, I imagine someone's going to hop on the radio and say, hey, end of stage is ready for, well, we're ready to transition on Bank B. If you guys could execute end of stage when you're ready, the data van is going to take a look at their tablet. They're going to see end of stage is available for Bank B. All they got to do is press it. As soon as they press it, system moves forward. Also, for the record, everything I've done so far is accessible through the technician account. The only thing you require admin for is your settings and taking certain things out of service. So because I'm in the technician account, you'll notice that I can no longer modify my flow rate. I can no longer modify this pressure differential. I can take end of stage on or off out of the technician. If CP is enabled, end of stage is enabled automatically and you cannot turn it off. So keep that in mind. That is by design. And you'll remember we are currently continuously pumping from 802 to 801. We just opened 801. It is now executing a close on 802. And you will see that when it fully transitioned, continuous pump is auto disabled. There is no skip mode anymore. There is no question about whether we are continuous pump or we are not. You make that decision in the moment, you make your well selections, you execute. So it removes a lot of the questions that people have had over the last several months about how that works. We could take a look at sequencer specifics. So
I have a quick question.
yes, sir.
So going back to the sequencer on the end of stage,
Mhm.
Conoco is different from Exxon, as in we don't have the tablets are all in the Connex. Frac does not have their own tablet, or Wireline does not have their own tablet. Is that going to change so they can hit the end of stage, or is that going to require them to still be in the Connex?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, ultimately, it's a field decision as to whether they have tablets in the data van. If you guys prefer it in the Connex, I imagine it's going to be, that's the plan for now until you guys want to change it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll probably have everybody meet in there at the get-go to get familiar with it. If they want to branch out, they can branch out.
Odie prefers that everybody's in the Connex. That's kind of why he got everybody out of the office shack back when we did that. He wants everybody there visually see.
All
the
right.
statue?
Yes. So I'm going to CP from what 703 to 801, or no 701 801 to 701. We're going to hit start. When I hit start, I can also pause it, just like your well sequencer. And it doesn't do anything other than pause operations. Important to note, if it already executed a valve move and you hit pause, the valve is gonna finish moving. It's not gonna stop any operation that's in sequence. If I pause and resume, so I paused it during the pending sequence, which I hadn't tried before. Of course, if you run into a sequence that doesn't behave properly, you can always abort it. And the abort functionality will reset sequencer back to the beginning. The thing to note with the abort functionality is that it can't undo what you've done, just like pause won't stop something in the middle of an action. Abort is not going to go back and fix something that's been done. So one of the challenges that we may have is if I start this sequence and you get, let's see, I hit end of stage. Oh yeah, I don't have it. Flip it for you. Put this back in technician. Okay, so it's going to execute. Something worth noting, and we talked to Conoco about this. They understand how this system works and they approved it for what it is. The ISO sequencer is designed to open ISOs in order to gain access, or in order to open the flow path. The ISO sequencer was not designed to close ISO valves in order to eliminate sanding operations or to eliminate dead legs. I'm going to go ahead and abort it right now. And I will continue my thought. Just remember that I aborted it. We're now part of the way through closing 801. Ah, see, okay, this is actually a good explanation point. I'm going to finish my train of thought before I dive into what just happened. The ISO sequencer was not designed to close valves after they've been opened. It is designed to close valves based on setting its own territory so that pressure can be maintained in the right locations. It will not close on flow path, and it will not open itself into another bank's flow rate. All of this is important because I understand that Conoco runs so many ISO valves because they want to close certain valves to eliminate any dead legs in the system. And so an example of this would be if bank B is going to frac 801H, which I could do right now, my sequence is going to leave ISO number 4 open once you start frac on 801. So Conoco's usual standard is to close ISO number 4 so we don't pump sand into this little section. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to handle that situation right now, and they've approved it for what it is. So keep that in mind, especially if your field guys are giving you trouble for it. Just let them know that this is part of the plan, and we are improving it as we speak to handle that, but it will not be for this pad. And with that in mind, your ISO valves have interlock requirements. Even if you go to this field overview page, you cannot operate them. They are to be operated through the ISO sequencer, and that's just how this was meant to be. So if you need to operate these under, emergency situations, we would go into rig up mode, and Conoco has already agreed that we are to sign an MOC before we operate any of these ISO valves on our own. So keep that in mind. Now, to cover my train of thought from before, what I just did was I aborted a sequence and I was too slow, and it actually finished bringing 801 from frac to standby because the sequence on 801 had already started. It's important to realize that this sequencer that we're looking at on this page, this is an isolation valve sequencer. It operates your ISO valves and it sends requests to the well. It does not operate your wells. It simply says, hey, 801, I want you to open for frac. And that's it. It just lets 801 do its thing. What's happening is it's reaching out to 801. And if you'll remember, 801 has its own sequencer, which exists right here. They are independent of each other. So keep that in mind. Because it already sent the request to open 801, and assuming that request was approved, this sequencer will take over and it'll execute for you. What I wanted to show you though is in the event that I aborted this thing and I'm in dual frac, which I actually don't want to do right now because I'm not prepared to handle it. But let's pretend that I executed a CP from here to here. I aborted halfway through. I'm now in frac on 701 and on 801. What would you do in this situation? You could either restart sequencer and execute all those commands again. It's not going to hurt anything and it will clean your sequence up. But I assume you aborted for a reason, like we weren't supposed to go to that well. What we did was we gave you the ability on this page for any well in frac. You guys are not running this version that you're seeing. You will have the ability to select standby, request phase change, execute it, get this well back into standby, and that will actually clear up any issues you're going to have on this page here. So then you can abort your sequencer and it'll go back to, okay, you got one well to close and that's your only option. So that's how we handle a situation where, oops, I went too far, I tried to abort it. Now I'm kind of stuck in between. You can go to the well overview page and you can request standby on this page. This button will be free to use. You guys are running 5.0.1. This is 5.0.0. There's a long reason for that. Needn't get into it. The very last
Wait.
thing I think, yes, sir.
They are going to be running 5.1
I'm sorry,
for this upcoming
5.1.0.
5.1.0. They will be running it for the upcoming pad.
Yes, and they already
Okay.
have it. Yes.
Okay. Simple.
Yeah. The only reason why this is incorrect is because it was just I grabbed it before they officially. It was hot off the press, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So the last thing I want to show you is there's a little quirk with banks inactive, and I'll show you what I mean. So 703, bank A. I'm going to simply close it. I'm going to let it do its thing. Once it closes, and just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to toggle end of stage off. Because I'm closing and I'm not continuous pump, in theory, you're not required to have end of stage. Obviously, you're going to want to leave this on all the time, just with the way we do operations, but something to keep in mind. Okay, so the system is now back to what I would call not active, but here's the little quirk, and I'll get the team to fix this on the next release. It is back to the start where it's like, okay, you only got one option. You can open a well. You have no wells in frac. However, you'll notice that this is a solid line, and that means my bank is in active state. So keep that in mind. If you ever see a solid line, that means your bank is active. It's a little confusing because obviously I'm not fracking. For whatever reason, you just have to hit the clear button, and that'll put this bank back into not active. Very simple fix. It's not a big deal, but it could be confusing if you get all your stuff back to an open state and you're trying to make some setting changes and you're like, oh, why is it not letting me make setting changes? Take a look at these banks and make sure that they're not solid. And if they are solid, hit that clear button and it'll put it back to a dotted line, which will ensure that it is no longer active state. The very last thing is when you're making these phase change requests, all of your phase change approvals will show up in the old places. It is something that I will be fixing in the near future. I would like that page that we were looking at to be a one-stop shop for you guys, so you don't have to navigate away. But as of right now, this is where we are at. And for simplicity's sake, on the first attempt at trying to get this out, we figured it was a much safer option. I'm going to turn this guy back to manual. And let's just take a quick peek at how that's going to look. So I will request 704. I will start it. It is going to request 704 to open, at which point you're going to see up here in the top, just like before, 704 request active. It's blinking, it's trying to get your attention. What you have to do is you have to hop off this page, get over to your well page, and you'll find your approvals there. This could be mitigated by using more tablets. It all depends on how you want to handle it. I haven't really heard any complaints from Chevron as of yet, but I do know it's a little bit annoying. So we will be addressing this in the near future. You make your approvals, that's great. If anything gets denied and the approvals don't go through, then this guy is going to start complaining that your well was unresponsive. And I think that comes in at like 30 seconds instead of the 60 timeout. In the event that this occurs and you guys don't get the approvals fast enough, it's not the end of the world. You simply hit abort and you're going to restart your sequence. Like I said, there's no risks to executing a sequence again. It's just going to resend those commands. It'll open or it'll close ISO2 again. Something to note, and I think I mentioned this before, you'll notice that when I request valves or when I request transition, you'll notice that the positions of your ISOs are, let's say ISO 4 is already open, or I'm sorry, to use this as an example. ISO 3 is already closed. ISO 6 is already closed. 5 and 4 are already open. The way ISO sequencer works, it doesn't really care what your valve positions are. It will execute them again. That's just the nature of how it works. So don't be confused by the fact that it's executing things that already exist. It is by design. So we have tested many sequences. We use an automated process to ensure that all the permutations are acceptable. So you can feel confident that any scenario that you choose has been tested at this point. And if you notice any sort of HMI glitches, maybe some text problems or misspellings, things of that nature, feel free to let the FSEs know, and they'll get that information over to me, and we can clean that up. Not a problem. That's it. Any questions?
Yes, sir. I do have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, okay, cool. In case of a scenario that we have to shut in a well and they want to still keep on fracking the other well, are they able to do that? Because previously, whenever we like, uh, we had to wait on to operate ISOs in order for us to start another frac on another well. Do we still have to wait, or can we still proceed? Let's say the one well finishes early and the other one is still fracking. Can you still proceed and frac the previous well, or no? Do we still have to wait to manipulate the ISOs?
Well, it depends on the situation. So are you saying that, let's say you're fracking the 701 with Bank B
Correct.
and it's taking too long? Your
Yeah,
initial
and it
plan was to get over to
and
703 with Bank B?
yeah, and Conoco wants to proceed and get started on another well. Can they do that, or they still have to wait till both fracs are down, or not down completely? Because now it's different with the what's it called with the
I got you.
sequencer and
I think I understand what you're saying. So each of these banks runs independently. You are welcome to make transitions independent of each bank. So it doesn't have to be together or simultaneous, right? So I
got
can
it.
say, yeah, I can say, hey, bank A is doing its thing. I can make a transition and then an hour later I can go to bank B and make its own transition. That's not a
Correct.
problem.
Okay. Okay. Good.
And
As
for,
long as it's not interlocking with each other's flow path. Like it won't allow you to go to a well that's currently in the flow path of bank A
yes,
Gotcha.
or vice versa.
yes,
Okay.
that's a good point. And to be clear, the planned shared well in this case is going to be the 801H. 801 can be fracked by bank A or it can be fracked by bank B. And the plan is bank B is to remain on this entire right side up to 801. And then bank A is to remain on this entire left side up to 801.
Okay. So okay, I can barely see the numbers. Sorry. So we have to like do a flow back on the 802, let's say, um, and they keep on fracking the 704. They're able to do that, correct? They can keep on fracking where we're flowing back the 802.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that should work fine.
Okay. Okay. So once we're flowing back, let's say on the 802 and 704 finishes, you're able to resume back on 802 without a problem. And then the bank A is able to go ahead and start fracking 703.
Yes, bank A is free to do it
Okay.
at once since it's entirely independent and it doesn't really care
It's
about
separate.
bank B.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
To a point where Stern was like, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna encroach on Bank B's territory, yes, you'll have a problem, but so long as you're playing within Bank A's safe range, yes, it does not care.
Okay.
However, your explanation of flowback, I assume we do that. That's still a manual process, right? It is not a request that we make on this page. Like you guys don't have flowback valves in Cyberfrac.
No, sir. No, no, we don't. Unless it's gonna be a new thing that we're gonna start putting them on that we haven't been told. I don't know.
Okay, so your process then, if you were to get into a flowback situation,
Yeah.
would it be to bring 802 back to standby? And then you would manually open the flowback links?
Got you. Okay.
Well,
So
I'm asking.
we will have to
I
take
don't
it
know.
off sequencer and the 802
Well,
in
that's what
order
I
for us
meant.
to go manual. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Your flowback situation. Would you go to standby or would you keep it in frac?
Mm, it
Like,
would
do y'all
probably
keep
go
the
to standby
zippers
because you have
open?
to shut in. But yeah, it'd probably go to standby because you have to shut the zippers.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, because some customers do things differently. So in this case, you would, let's pretend, well, I don't have any good examples, or this guy is a good example. So if you're fracking on the 701, you're not going to continuous pump it. You're just going to close 701. So you just hit start. It would execute a close on this well. And then once it fully closes, you would hop back to, well, I guess you have manual valves. So you wouldn't even use this screen. You do your flowback operations. And because you're in standby, this bank is shut down. Nothing's going on. And then when you're ready, you can reopen whatever way you like.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I got a question with the shared well.
Mhm.
Are we gonna have to sequence that in a certain order? Or so like how you said, bank A and bank B won't allow each other to encroach on each other? So is
Yes.
that sequence gonna ever mess with each other? Because I know that frac sequence is all over the place.
Well, you know what? Let's take a look while we're here. I have seen that layout. Let me see if I can find it. There's so many chats. Yeah, I can't find, actually, maybe it's in here. Yeah, I found it. All right, so this is your approved frac sequence. And shared well starts somewhere down here. Right, so the shared well is 801, right? And it's going to be 1, 2, 3. So it should be following orange until it flips over to yellow. Or is it, it's green to purple? Yeah, I see it does jump around quite a bit. I did a few of them to see how it would handle it. It shouldn't be a problem. What's going to happen here is you're basically going here to here to here to here. And it looks like the way they had this set up, your only transition point is orange to green, but then it's yellow to green. So no, this shouldn't be a problem. So we could do this right now. If I'm fracking on orange. So I'm fracking on the 704. And I'm fracking on yeah, in this case it would be yellow. right? Ah, I left those damn approvals on. Damn it. No, it shouldn't be a problem. The way this is going to work is, so you're going to start fracking with bank A on 801. And as you continue to bounce around and do your thing, this guy is always going to be isolated by ISO 5. When the time comes for bank B to access 801, your plan here says you are fracking on yellow, and at that time you will be fracking on blue. So at the time of transition from yellow, you should jump right over to green. And at that point you'd be on orange. And if I continue further down, it jumps over to consistently orange, green, but these transition periods shouldn't be a problem. And the system was designed to allow you to do this. So that's part of the permutation testing.
Yeah, Gord,
is
I
to
mean,
make
that,
sure
that was my only concern, because these guys, they have a habit of switching things up all the time too. And that's where
Oh,
we always get,
absolutely.
caught off guard.
Definitely. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But, part of that permutation stuff is to try to identify all the crazy scenarios they can come up with and prove that our system will handle it. So you can have full confidence that this is going to be what you need. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I got. Stay safe out there, and let me know if we got any big problems. I don't foresee anything, so, but I'll be on standby just in case.
I got one question for you before we go.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
They like to zipper frack at the end of the frack, like 5, 6, 7 wells. If they want to rig out the bank A and they want to frack with the bank B, all the wells, is that possible? Because you
Ooh,
said you
yeah.
can't eliminate the B section or the A section, right?
Well, yeah, that's a valid question. So, yes, it's designed that A has to be on by default. So what I would suggest is when that happens, if that were to happen,
We probably just need to set
They-
bank A as the
They always do
final.
it.
they
They
always
always do it. So they always give them 8 hours ahead. So they can rig one side down and keep one side. And then they'll zipper frack the rest of the wells.
If that's the case, can't you just put a block separating bank B to bank A and just keep bank A in service and not worry about it?
Oh yeah, that's pretty smart. Yeah, I did not think about it that way. Sure, you could do that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be like capping off where bank A came into the trunk line to begin with. So you just put your block there and just block off the wells that B or B hitting, and you don't have to worry about A anymore.
Yep, that's exactly what you would do. And of course, in doing so, you now have access to all of your wells across the. I mean, not that you need them, but yeah, that would work fine. Your other option would be more difficult. You'd have to remove or rewire the transducer so that you're reading bank B on bank A, take bank B out of service, and go that route. But no, Justin's exactly right. That would be the easiest thing to do. Cool. Any other questions?
Everyone comfortable with this? I mean, obviously, as Mike said, raise any concerns you'll have. We'll try to do some dry runs beforehand, get y'all on the OSs familiarized with how everything looks and works. But please, use y'all stop work if y'all aren't comfortable. We're not trying to throw this in y'all's face. So, just raise concern if y'all got it or anything that does not look right.
Hey,
I also,
think I noticed today I was playing on this in the training pad. We were jumping from well to well on frac, and I don't know if customer approvals were set to auto or what, but it never sent auto like approvals within simulation. Is that because you are in simulation, or is there a setting that we had turned
Mhm.
on to allow just all the approvals be accepted?
yeah, so by default, I set everything to phase change approval. I set it to auto. But in the field, your guys will have it set to manual. So if it's set to manual, that's when your approvals are set, and you guys know how to set your approvals as necessary, and you can set it to 1 or 2 or however many you need. But like I said, those approvals show up on the well pages. They will not show up on the frac bank page for now. So you'll have to navigate back to the well pages in order to make those approvals. Same goes for valve request approvals. If you have any of those will also show up in their old locations. Oh, one small thing to note. I would suggest starting CP Simul once you have the upper master valves all open. You can do it with the upper master valves closed. It's just, you got to remember to go back to the well page to open it, because I don't have a good way at the moment to give you the option to include it in the sequence. It's a little funky. Because it was designed for continuous pump, we expect it to be open at all times. There's a little caveat in that if you had a stack configuration that was utilizing this as part of the sequence, say you have a traditional stack, it would normally be part of the sequence. I guess I could show you. Because this is designed to do not only continuous pump, you can do regular frac with this. Let's say I want to open 704. Because I made it a traditional stack, my well sequencer should auto update so that UMV is included. And let's say I wanted to start frac on this guy. What I'm going to show you is if your well sequencer ever gets into a position where it pauses itself, we do have the ability to resume it from this page. I don't suspect it's going to happen very often, but it's important for you to know that it's there and what it means. So we'll take a quick peek. Like I said, the well page sequencer is its own independent setup. And maybe it did not take my change. Oh, shoot, I already have it open. That was kind of dumb. All right, let's try this one. What is this? And what's this? And actually, yeah, this is a good point. So because I'm traditional stack, I have a bleed off requirement. It auto pauses whenever I close the UMV valve. It expects me to have time to bleed off. This sequencer is paused, that is the state. When Frac Bank's ISO sequencer understands that this guy is saying, hey, I'm paused. If we go back to this page, you'll see the resume button actually pops up here for you. So you can resume it and it will auto resume the well page sequencer. It only works if the sequencer is in a pause state. It does not work if sequencer is interlocked, a valve didn't move because you didn't equalize. It'll just hang out and wait for the well to complete the sequence. It'll time out if the well doesn't move fast enough. So you do have to keep an eye on things and be like, okay, these zippers aren't moving. It's been like, 10, 15 seconds. What's going on? You can always hop over to the well page and see what's happening on the well page sequencer. But like I said, if the system is in fact in a pause state, it should show up on this page and you'll be able to hit resume without you having to go back. So I say all that, it really gets back to the main point. This thing works much better if all your upper master valves are open. But like I said, you're not required to do that, at least in the beginning. Just remember, you may have to hop back to the well page if you need to operate the ISO or operate the UMV, because it may or may not be part of your sequence depending on, how your setup is. Cool. Well, I appreciate y'all staying pretty late. I wasn't expecting it to go over an hour, but I think we got a lot of valuable information. I also recorded this, so if you need to run back and take a look at anything, feel free to do that. I'll send it in the chat if it's not auto updated. And a quick reminder, I did put a step-by-step document in our chat page as well. So if you prefer to read it or see some screenshots, it is also a good indicator of how to use the system. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all.
See you guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Mike. No problem.